Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Malraius' Musings. This is Malraius. So, our next video is why 1940 was a bust for Universal monster movies. Now, I don't know how well they did financially, but as far as, classic movies. So, between 1930 and 1939, in the decade of the 30s, there was 8 Universal monster movies made. 8. That's an average of less than one a year. In 1940, we have 3 movies. 3. What do we got here? The Invisible Man Returns, which we're not going to really cover. The Mummy's Hand, which we're not going to really cover. And The Invisible Woman, which we're going to kind of cover here and then move on. So, The Invisible Woman, I mentioned before, the only reason I even want to mention it and give it like an honorary note here is there is some overlap between the horror aesthetic and the fetish aesthetic. I'm not saying it's a giant overlap. I'm saying there is an overlap. This overlap, for simplicity's sake, you could say is personified in somebody like Betty Page. Or Elvira, for that matter. So kind of that vibe, if you will. That being said, it's the only reason I'm kind of bringing Invisible Woman in, which, I've heard people talk about being a bit of a misogynist movie, but it was a product of its time. But there's a lot of things in there like stockings being put on and off, and at one point she takes her naughty boss and puts her over his lap and spanks him, and I'm kind of like, what am I watching? That was like what went through my mind. I'm like, what is this movie? And there's not much of a monster. It's more of a comedy movie, And as I said before, I found all the subsequent Invisible and Mummy movies to be lackluster, although there is one Mummy scene that I might discuss later. But Kharis, I'm sorry, but Kharis doesn't interest me as much as Imhotep did. The Karloff mummy. The Karloff mummy was like, they talk about the head, like the main bad guy, and then the heavy, which is like his biggest enforcer. In a sense, Imhotep was both 2 in 1, whereas Kharis is just the muscle, and there's always like a priest behind him who's not even in the league of Imhotep as a priest. So I found the rest of the Mummies movies and Invisible Man movies to be lackluster. That's all I got to say about that. 1940, the bust for Universal.